are so excited that you're here with us. I have Patty with me tonight, Monique, Joan, and Kelly, and then there's Janice, Glenda, and Heidi. Ladies, y'all want to say hello to the Facebook family and friends? We're just hanging out tonight, and we're just talking about the ladies have had an opportunity to read chapter 1 that's entitled Leading as a Child. And so they got a little scoop on how my leadership qualities were developed. And so I'd just like to sit back and we're just going to talk about chapter 1 and see how the ladies were able to glean from chapter 1 and give you some insight. Okay, ladies, are you ready?
Yeah. Yep. What I would like to say is it's so simple to have parents that sow the right seed into your children, into their children. Because that's when I read that, that's what I felt. That was the seed that your parents planted in you. And by earlier conversation today, you mentioned that your children also are experienced the born leader. So it's what I see is the legacy throughout all 3 generations on leadership. And it's awesome because today's kids go to the university, they think that they know everything, and they put the parents in one side, missing the opportunity to pick all those values that are essential for today's life. Right. So that's what I see. I don't know, you guys, what do you think?
But I saw chapter 1 was Cynthia, because you're just so vibrant and you're just so strong. And so when I was reading it, like I told you the other day, I heard you, I saw you, and I thought, this is Cynthia. She's strong, she's independent, she can do anything. She's aggressive, and so I definitely a born leader. Because those qualities of being strong, being able to lead. I mean, you lead with love, and you lead with example, and you lead with caring. Because ever I've known you, just always have cared, always have loved, and always been an example. And so I think it's great that your parents instill that in you. And in that chapter 1, I saw what they did to implement that. And I love the fact that you are everything that chapter 1 was created to be.
Because, and I'm glad you said that, Monique, because even though they were strict, and my parents were the type of parents, you didn't compromise with them, you just followed instructions. They gave good instructions, they set good examples, they were hard workers, and they actually, showed us excellence through the daily tasks that they did every day. My dad always said, do it right the first time. Now, as a kid, okay, because I knew if I mess it up, I was going to have to do it again.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, until later, like when I started working, that, I see what he mean, do it right the first time.
Yes.
And then you start to expect the same thing.
Well, I like the part with you and the vehicles and what your dad taught you, because it was really relatable, and I learned some things about vehicles with my dad, and he was saying not even some men know how to change their oil or tires or know what's a CB boot or any of those types of things. So when I was reading that, I said, oh my gosh, I mean, I adore her, but whoa, that is hot stuff. Can I say hot stuff? And so you were taught how to be self-reliant, but then also leave room for when you need help. So I really like that. It's balanced.
Yeah, because with my dad, when he changed a tire, whenever my dad did a task, and even like my mom, they didn't allow you just to stand around. They wanted you to observe. Mm-hmm. And so you had to learn, not just, go get the tire. I had to know what the lug was. I had to know the proper screws and the proper tubes all the time. Mm-hmm. If he knew it, I had to know it as well.
Yeah, I thought about some of when I was growing up, reading about how your dad taught you things and your mom. And that's how I grew up too. And you just develop that take charge kind of personality, which most of the time turns into a born leader, just like you are. And I like the one message that you put in here though about a leader not being controlling, because if you're controlling, you're intimidating. And I see that so much in my profession. And I try not to do it, so I'm glad you touched on it, because if you're gonna be a leader, you can't be intimidating and try to get somebody to do something by intimidation.
Right. And I think like on that particular note, like my dad he was controlling, but he was my dad.
Yeah.
And with that, you know, with the controlling part, I learned through life, like I began to start leading that same way. But it wasn't until like, I'm like, God, you're asking me to lead these people. I just don't know, I don't know, you know, what to do. And it was just actually through getting in the presence of God and actually like praying a lot that God was able to actually show me how, you know, and I was always complaining about the people and complaining about the people. And he's like, Cynthia, I want to change that leader inside of you. And he began to do that. And the first part was the being more gentle. The way I spoke to the people. Like my dad, you know, I was his kid, so, but I was doing the same thing that he was doing. And it's like, you can't do that with adults, you know. And so I was sharing a story the other day, me and my son, we were talking, and he made the comment because he had just gone through leadership training. And he says, Mom, they said, you know, something like, you love people like they're your children, but you don't treat them like your children. Isn't that good? Isn't that good? You love, and this is leaders. Now we're talking about leaders here. Now, you know, you love them like they're your children, because we love our children, right? And our grandchildren.
Oh, yes.
But you don't treat them like that, and because you lose respect. They're not going to respect you for that. And so I will say I learned the hard way. But when he taught me later on in the book, you'll see how he began, you know, he started shifting all that. You know?
And people tend to follow who you respect.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's good. And it's
Definitely.
good to lead by example, not just telling somebody to do something, but actually showing them. And that's part of those characteristics that you have. You are charismatic and you're assertive and you love with your heart. And if someone doesn't know something, someone could come to you and ask. And being part of this venture and your good born leader, you have no reservations in how successful you're going to be, because you are a leader by naturally.
And you serve people so well.
Yes.
You're so loving, and you're such an example. I mean, the way you serve with all your heart. You are gentle and kind. And I know every time you see me, you always know, how are your children? How are those grandchildren? And that's what makes a great example. There's so many times, as you said, when you lead, you're intimidating, and you're the leader, and you're talking to them, and you're telling them something, and the next time they see you, they just don't even remember what you told them, you know, and you kind of lose respect. They might be the leader, but they have no respect. And I think that everyone in this room can say, you know, oh, you're always so respected by so many. So that
Yeah,
is good. It's
that's a
good thing.
great quality. That is really a great quality. I know that I was raised a lot like you, but I was the last in the birth order. I was sixth, whereas so I see the difference between you being in the first in the birth order and me being the youngest, and how you know. But my dad did raise us a little more with an intimidating atmosphere, and so I didn't realize until I was older that I did that. But I think through training and through materials that I read and studied through the Word of God, that I was able to switch that and become more of a positive leader like you are. You know, so through the grace of God, you got it raw from your parents.
Well, it's like you said, Patty, it's like, but they did. My dad, he led through intimidation, through controlling, but it's like, I was like you, I kept wanting to get it right. Like if you want me to lead, I want to do this right, you know, because I mean, I had seen poor examples of leaders, and I was like, I don't want to lead like that. You know, I'm not perfect, and I'm not saying I got it right every time, but I believe that as leaders, we should rise up to try to get it right. And to go and cultivate that leadership quality on the inside of us, And then we talked about, I like the word cultivate, is that our leadership qualities are cultivated every day. The lessons that we learn every day, it's being cultivated every day. But that goes to also with people. We have to cultivate relationship with people for them to follow us. Because if we don't, I can, like I say, people are just not gonna follow you if they don't respect you, or if they don't know
And treat
you.
them like they matter, like they're
Yes.
valuable,
Yes.
that they're not just a tool to do your bidding.
Yes.
Yes.
And you have to listen. You really have to listen, and that's a quality you have. You listen, and I know you listen because you'll ask me something. I'm like, well, she heard that. Does she remember that? And so many times you don't find people that way, and it's hurtful sometimes, and it's sad because people are so busy. So when you get someone like you that you stop and you wait and you listen and you, like you said, cultivate the relationship, it just is very special.
Right.
Yeah, very special.
And
And you
then-
leave a mark.
And thank you so much for that. And as a leader, like you say, to listen. I think another thing with me coming up was like, I expected things from people that I thought I should have got from maybe leaders or people at church or people at work, and I didn't get it. So I began to ask God to help me give what I like to get.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that good?
That's very good.
Yes.
Help me to give what I like for people to give me. And like you said, Monique, the same way, we're in tune with each other. When we listen to each other, I know if your grandbaby is sick. I know that your parents, how are they doing today? Because I'm cultivating that relationship with you. I know if Joan had a good week at work, because I'm going to ask.
And you have compassion. That's
Yes.
really important.
I think that's the beauty of the book, in the first chapter that we read, is that tools like this help us to figure it out, to become leaders. And I know that several years ago, the church asked us to read that book, The Way of the Shepherd.
Yeah.
And it was such a little book and an easy read. And I'm like, oh my God, Lord, I'm so sorry. I don't know my employees' wives' names. I don't know their children's names. I don't ever see them. And so it made me to go, and I make notes in my phone and write it down because it's not a natural quality for me. And so books like this, where you show how to lead, how to be positive, are such a tool for people in business and in your volunteering at church or whatever you do. It's just a very valuable tool and easy to read.
And I think, in a way, the intimidating from your dad, and he was so hard on you, and in chapter 1, everything you did, and the way he approached you, is a great tool for you now, because it teaches you not to approach that way. He was loving you though. He was loving you, and he was putting seeds in you that you probably had no idea. But I think that it was good for you. It was good for you. It made you strong.
Yeah.
I mean, you were gonna dig your heels and you were gonna do it anyway, and you did it, and that's why now you're gonna do this book. It's gonna be great because you're gonna dig in your heels and you're gonna do it.
I think he
I
was
love that.
building discipline on her.
Yes.
That discipline and character
And character. That's
that a
right.
leader needs. Because you could be loving, compassion, but if you don't have the discipline to focus and finish the goals, the team is going to fail.
It's good.
Yes.
Sometimes the leader has to be compassionate and gentle, but other times they need to be tough. Because there are goals that needs to be set up, especially for the companies. Important. I remember my first time that I became a leader, I didn't know that I was a leader. My boss told me on Friday afternoon, you need to be in the east part of the country, report on Monday. So I just went there and I said, I'm just gonna be another colleague among the team. And after a week that nobody was talking to me and they were being so mean to me, I said, why are these people being mean to me? you are the manager. And I was
Nobody likes you for a reason.
That's funny.
and I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And I said, but nobody told me that that was my role in here. I said, well, but they were told that you were coming. So I think it's the lack of preparation. And I remember I went, I called my mom and my sister, and I said, Mom, I'm a manager. And I said, oh, poor people. Oh my God. Because my dad, like your dad, my dad was very tough on us, very disciplined. I mean, you have to be, the moral standards in the house are very high, and so on. So when the only thing you know is that, then you play the game that everybody have to be at the same standard, but you don't know the background of the people that are in your team.
Right.
Maybe they came from a broken home, they didn't have a father that spoke to them, so you have to kind of manage and identify those weaknesses to be able to help your team
Right.
and lead them to succeed. Because if they fail, you fail.
Absolutely.
It's not their fault, it's your fault as a
Absolutely.
leader.
Absolutely.
So I remember I bought so many books on leadership that I was like, oh my goodness, what did it say? and when I first read the chapter, I said, wow, Cynthia look up after other people to trying to define herself as a leader, what type of leader I want to be. So to me that was very awesome, because the leader is born, but has to be developed, either yourself or get the little drops from other people that will help you to grow. And it's a never-ending growth. That's the way I see it.
That's
So,
good.
very
That's
good.
good. That's good. And you made it.
I know one thing that happened to me is I used to go to say goodbye to my dad. I'd go down to their store. My dad had a boat dealership, and I'd go down there and say, well, I'm going back to college now. And he'd go, did you check the oil? And I'd say, no, it's fine, Dad. And he would grab me by the hand, and he would just go around the entire car, but he would not let go of my hand. This happened every time, and I finally figured it out. And that's how he was hard, like your dad, but that's how he taught me to be responsible. And he would kick the tires, and he'd pop the hood, and he'd start the engine, and he'd check the transmission fluid, and he'd keep my hand in his hand, and he'd have the red rag, and he'd keep my hand, and he'd show me how to do it, and he'd go and he'd look to the water on the battery, but that's how my dad trained me. But I do not ever get on the road without my car making sure that it is in good shape. You know what I mean? And there's just certain responsibility things that our fathers teach us, our parents teach us, or someone teaches us, that helps us to learn to lead, and we know how to direct the people under us in that way. So that was a lesson I learned.
I tell my kids now, everything I tell you, you're going to need. I mean, you might not like it right now, but you're going to use it, and you're going to appreciate me. I might be gone, but you're going to remember me.
That's exactly what my dad said.
It's true. It's true. We're just trying to pour into them what they're going to need. They just don't understand. You didn't understand, but now I'm sure you probably appreciate everything.
And then you know what? He was actually exemplifying, like, as my dad, it's like how a child is supposed to trust their father.
Ooh, that's good.
Isn't that good?
And if you know how to trust your earthly father, you can trust God. Because I found out just talking through different people why some people don't have a good relationship and trust God. It's because who they had as an earthly father did not show that to them. So then they figured, then why can I trust God when I don't even see him?
And that made my relationship with God easier, because I'm basically like, if you said it, I believe it. And like, I'll share with you, I wrote this book 13 years ago, and I just tucked it away. And y'all read in the introduction about kind of how all that happened and everything. And but I just put it away, and every year, different people would say, "Hey, I just published a book." and he bring to my mind, you know, that I had written a book, but I never moved on publishing the book. And I always said, I know you'll let me know. And so, even though, you know how as a leader and you have a dream, you're waiting and you're wondering when things are gonna happen, that's where that trust comes back in. You know what? I'm trusting your timing. And it was 13 years to the date that January 2006, I wrote it while the church was on that extensive fast for 21 days. I wrote it in like 4 or 5 days. And I put it away and saved it. And then in January 2019, he says, publish the book.
That's good.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
And I tell you, when it happened, it was like every year when it would come up, my heart would just beat fast, like grip with like fear, like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this book. But this year, when he said publish the book, it's like I felt like God rolled the red carpet out for me.
So good.
Like he gave me all the tools. He's giving me all the tools. He's lining up all the right people, and it's all and it takes people to make your dreams come true. And so it's like he's lining everything up. And so you know what? I'm like, you know what? God, this is not on me, it's on you.
Well, look at the example of Joseph. You know, how many years was Joseph? 13 years.
Yeah.
And so you think about how, with the grace of God on our lives, how we really got it easy. I mean, Joseph, look what he went through. He was sold by his brothers, and his dad thought he was dead, and then he was a slave, and then Potiphar's wife came after him, he went in jail, and all this horrible stuff. And we think, those are easy 13 years. You know, I mean, when we think, oh God, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? But, you know, the grace of God is so good. We didn't have to live like they did.
Yeah. So.
I'm just looking forward to more of your stories because I just felt like your first chapter was so vivid. It painted pictures in my head of your childhood. And then it also brought, you know, ideas about, you know, a very harder father. And I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for you to see how you reconcile that because I don't feel like you were quite finished with that in the first chapter. But
Because you know, you don't appreciate them. You know.
No.
No, you don't appreciate getting up. And my dad, I mean, he wasn't afraid of hard work. When I say that, I don't care if it snowed. You know, I was the kid that at the end of the prayer when my mom would get through with us, I would be the kid still on my knees going, can you please let it rain tomorrow so we don't have to go to the woods tomorrow? Well, you know what? That didn't work. My dad got me rain boots. He got me a slicker jacket to wear, and so when it comes to raining, you know, rain, sleet. Oh God, okay, the rain didn't work. It's cold. Can it snow? Well, guess what? We were still out there going at it. So yeah. It was hard. But you know what, that I appreciated that later, and that I saw my father taking me through the physical seasons.
Very true. Very true.
And God takes me through the spiritual seasons.
Yeah.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that's good.
And as my dad took me through the physical season, I was able to go through the spiritual ones easier because you know what? Every season it's going to change.
Yeah.
It's going to change. Yeah, it's going to rain, but the sun is going to come out.
Yeah.
It's going to snow, but it's going to melt. You know?
Yeah.
It's cold, but it's going to warm up too. It's hot, but it's going to get cold. Every season, it's going to change.
Oh, that's right.
And so he was bracing me for those seasons. I know we talked the other night and you said it seemed like he was just, you know, real hard. And I didn't appreciate it. I resented it. You know, I did.
Did you ever told your dad?
Like talk back to him?
Yeah, that you
Want to be honest or no?
My dad gave me one message and he said, and it sounded like this, and I literally, like when people talk, I see pictures, and it sounds like, if you ever try to talk back to me, you're going to be picking your teeth up off the floor. And I didn't want my teeth on the floor.
That's what my dad would say.
Yeah.
I want those we never tried it.
Yeah.
And so, we just, and he would just look at us.
Yeah.
And
Not
it
like
was
I-
new,
yeah.
it just, you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And we go to someone's house, and, we're four, and they would serve us, and he'd look at us, only a little bit. And so we'd eat, and we'd be starving, and then he went somewhere, and we're like, so we'd go home, and my guy would cook for us. But, we were taught no.
We
My dad
were-
would be like, no.
Monique, did
And
you
we're like,
grow-
I'm starving, look at all that good food. Oh my God.
Monique, did you grow up in the same house as us?
They're like,
Yeah.
no.
Well,
so,
my mother will do the same. She will give us the look.
That's my
Yeah.
mom.
See, my dad gave the look.
Yeah.
My mom, she talked.
Oh, they had the
My
look.
mom gave the look.
My mom had the look. My dad had the look and the talk. Yeah.
I say mine.
But I think about my father, I think he was a lot like your father, but the fear of my father kept me out of a lot of trouble.
Yes.
It kept me out of a lot of trouble, and it probably did you too.
No padding. No,
I would say, I still.
I was so
No.
afraid of the beating that would come, or the.
My siblings were, but I was.
But I guess maybe that's the difference between the birth order, me being the
Yeah.
sixth
Yeah.
child and you being the first. You're the one that had to make.
Well,
the
you
mistake.
saw
Oh, I
what
saw
could
it
happen.
I saw.
I didn't see what could happen. I had it happen to me. Okay, so I got plenty of spankings. My siblings were good.
Oh.
I was the one that had everybody like doing stuff, and I was the entertainer, and I was the one saying stuff, and I was always, yeah, I was always entertaining and keeping everybody going, but I would be the one to get the spanking. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was the third one. I hardly got any spankings, and I was trouble too. I was trouble. I hardly got
I was
any
the
spankings,
first
but
one like you, and I probably got 2 spankings, and my siblings got more. And I remember my sister saying, "How do you do it?" I said, "Because I realized if I listen to them, my life will be easier. So we need to listen." And I started calling them the parentals.
We called
I
my
just
dad Gaddafi.
I just never got it. I just never got it. I think by the time I was a teenager, it got to a point because I kept thinking, wow, when will I ever stop getting spankings? So they call them spankings now. We used to call them whoopings. And so I think probably the last whipping I got was probably about 16, maybe 16, 17. But I was in high school.
wow.
And so, my dad and them, they didn't believe in that time now.
Well, and I think too that the timing of your book is so essential for today, because I know a lot of us, we're too lenient on our children because we didn't want to be verbally abusive like our parents, or we didn't want to appear hard, and we got into a more materialistic lifestyle as we came up. And I think that we're seeing the fruit of that
Yes.
with the younger generation now, who they just don't want to listen to their parents, you know what I mean? And like, what do you know? And they listen to the young lions, their neighbor, their friends, their peers, instead of the fathers, you know. And so I think the timing of this is just very good, because we need tools on leadership for this generation, you know.
I think those 13 years were to get us to today. I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I was
That's
thinking
good.
of that
That's
because, exactly, we have a concern about the leaders that are going to move forward, because, it's just a different generation, and we're bringing them up differently, and we weren't hard on them. We were friends. We want to be their friends, but then that has its complications.
Right.
And I think that, your book is at a great time. I think we're gonna see more at this time, because this generation are now, we have the time to say, I'm gonna write a book, or I'm gonna talk to someone, or I'm gonna get into this position where I can mentor, and so like in my life, I'm trying to help here and volunteer there, because I've got a little bit more wisdom. And so I have the time, that I've had, where millennials coming up, there's a concern.
Yes.
There's a concern.
I think you're right. Like, the timing for it is good, and it's like my son, he's a millennial, and so when I talked to him, that's all he said, "Mom, millennial," and I was like, that's my heartbeat, to see that change,
Yeah.
and everything. like today I was at the grocery store and I see this kid that looks like he's about 10 in the buggy. And looks like, I don't know if his dad or his granddad was pushing it. And he was limping and he was pushing it. And so, but I'm still that parent, you know, and I'll go, young man, wow, you should be ashamed of yourself in that buggy and having your dad to push you. I didn't say grandfather because I didn't know. You never know these things. And so he chuckled and the little boy just kind of looked up at me and I said, what do you think that the kids on the inside of that store are going to say when they see you inside of that buggy? He just kind of looked. And then he started to climb out. Because sometimes it's just not even awareness. You're 10 years old and you're inside the buggy where the food goes. It's like, so, and in my head I'm going, Cynthia, just stop, stop, just, you know. But it's just, I think, awareness, you know. And I think a born leader is going to bring awareness. This is